Hyundai India has had the Nios and the Venue at the budget end of the market for some time now. The Nios, as we know, is a mid-size hatchback, whereas the Venue is a compact SUV. So, what do we make of the new Exter? Well, it is by all definition a real crossover, a funky little mix and match between the Nios and the Venue. After all, the Exter is based on the Nios. It uses the same engine and gearbox options, but in essence, it is a micro SUV. It's got robust design elements and an upright stance, so when you look at it, it will remind you of the Venue. The Exter then is a rugged small car just like the Tata Punch, and it's packing features that we haven't seen at this price point. So there is a lot to talk about here. But before that, please take a moment and like and share this video if you find it useful. Also, you may want to stick around till the end of this video because we've got a bunch of questions from you guys about the Exter that I'll get to after the end of the review. Before we begin with the Exter's design, let's take a minute and try to identify the target buyer for a micro SUV like this. Now I'm guessing the Exter is going to be the first car purchase for many people, and when you're paying north of 10 lakh rupees, then a simple old hatchback simply won't do. At that price, you would want something with more road presence, something that looks a little more substantial. Speaking of which, now what we have seen is that the Exter's design evokes strong opinions. After all, it's a funky take on the micro SUV formula, so pretty much whatever angle you look at it from, it will have your attention. And this is despite the fact that it's not any longer than the Nios because the wheelbase and the length on the Exter are exactly the same. It is of course noticeably taller as well as wider than the Nios and comes with more ground clearance. With its split headlamp setup, gloss black paneling on the hatch, edge-shaped LED DRLs and taillights, the Exter will have your attention when you see it for the first time. But I have to say that it's not the most cohesive design out there. The upright stance and the squared off wheel arches look nice, but then you have these 15-inch wheels which look small. Also, if you ask me, the front end on this car looks puny compared to the massive cabin section that follows it. Before we dig deep into how the Exter is like to drive, let's take a look at its interior and what all features it gets. The Nios is one of our top rated small cars and its interior has been pretty much reused in here. So for instance, the layering on the dashboard, the 3-spoke steering wheel and this 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system, they all have been taken from the Nios. Now for some variation, Hyundai is offering different colors for the seat pattern and dashboard inserts. Though I have to add that they do not amount to any drastic visual changes. Where the Exter really stands out is in the quality and fit and finish, which is very good for this segment. Like every other Hyundai model, the quality of plastics in here is quite impressive, even lower down the cabin. I also like the solid feedback that you get from the knobs and dials around the main display, the climate control panel and how heavy the AC vents feel when you operate them. The Exter is a micro SUV, but there is nothing micro about the amount of space it has to offer. Firstly, the sense of space in here is quite nice, and this is despite this being an all-black cabin. Secondly, for a small car, it is quite tall, so getting in and out of the Exter is quite easy. And once you're in here, you will notice that the front seats are nice and supportive with just the right amount of cushioning. Moving to the rear, headroom is adequate, and if you're someone my height, then you will be happy with the amount of legroom as well. Now I am 5'8", I have set the front seat to my driving position, and as you can see, there is loads of room for me to freely move my legs and be comfortable. Also, I'm getting good support from the backrest here, and although a shoulder room isn't the best, especially when you have 3 people in here, the seat base is set quite high, and because it's at a certain angle, it adds to the under thigh support, which I think is quite good. As for the boot area, you get 391 liters of storage space, so on paper, the Exter is leading, although the loading clip is higher than we would have liked. Nonetheless, it is big on capacity and the Exter can easily accommodate up to 4 carry-on luggage vertically. So overall, even though it's based on the Nios, the Exter is taller, it has wider opening doors, better ingress and a bigger boot, making it a more practical choice for anyone looking for a small family car. Coming to the features on this top spec SX Option Connect variant, you get a fully digital instrument cluster, a wireless charging pad, sunroof, a very slick infotainment system that supports Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, rear AC vents, cruise control, a cooled glove box, and climate control. The Connect variant also gets dual view dashcam and over-the-air updates for the connectivity features. For safety, the biggest highlight is that all the variants of the Exter come with 6 airbags and ABS as standard. Other safety features include a tire pressure monitoring system, rear view camera, automatic headlamps, keyless entry, and 3-point seat belts for all the seats. Finally, there is one feature that nobody was expecting with this car, and it's these paddle shifters that you get with the AMT version. I know it's a cool feature to have, and it's something that we have usually seen in high performance cars, so to have it in this car at this price point is quite surprising. Now let's check out whether they add to the driving experience or they are just more of a gimmick. But before that, let me quickly run you through the engine and gearbox options that you get with the Exter. So you have the same 1.2 litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine from the Venue, the Aura and the Nios. As for the gearbox options, there's a 5-speed manual or a 5-speed AMT gearbox that I'm driving here. The 4-cylinder engine is as refined and quiet as ever. There is hardly any buzz at normal operating RPMs, say between 1500 to 3000 RPM. The only time you will feel this engine working hard is when the car is loaded with 3 or 4 people and you want to get somewhere quickly. So that's pretty much it when it comes to this petrol engine. It's a familiar unit that we have grown to like for its linear power delivery and refinement. As for the AMT gearbox, the biggest praise that I can give it is that it doesn't take away anything from the driving experience. In fact, it is extremely smooth when you're driving using path throttle. It will upshift at around 2000 RPM and the car will barely rock front and back, so you will never really have that head nodding motion in the first 3 gears. All in all, the Exter with the AMT gearbox feels just right for driving around town. But when the time comes when you need to reel into a gap in traffic or overtake a long vehicle, then that's where it gets a little tough. So there is a lot of delay between you going full throttle, the gearbox reacting to it, and then downshifting. Usually that would be the end of it in every low power AMT car, but here I have these paddle shifters to eliminate some of that lag and frustration. And let me tell you, it works quite well. Sure, it's a weird feeling waiting for the actual gear shift to happen after you have pulled the paddle, but that's simply because of the AMT gearbox and the time that it usually takes to go through the gears. But here at least I have a better sense of control over the gearbox. The Exter rides quite well for its size, and honestly, the noise insulation on this thing is superb. There isn't a lot of road noise or wind noise even when you're doing highway speeds. As for the suspension, it remains quiet when it's going about its business. As for the actual ride, it's nice and flat and there isn't a lot of up and down movement once you're up to speed. It's just that at low speeds, it's a bit bouncy over speed bumps and sharp undulations. The Exter is yet another outcome of Hyundai hitting almost all the right notes. As a small crossover, it has the makings to become a popular choice in its segment. I mean, it's got the looks, the features, and the convenience of a well-sorted automatic car. Okay, so it's not the most fun to drive vehicle, and if I'm honest, I'm not a fan of how it looks. But for every other need and purpose, the Exter makes for an easy recommendation. Okay, time to answer all the questions that you guys have sent in for the Exter, and I will begin with the most common question, which is the real world mileage for the Exter AMT. Fortunately, we have been driving the AMT version all day today, and the claimed mileage for this very car is around 19.2 kilometers per liter, but we have been getting around 9 to 10 kilometers per liter. That is with the fact that we have been shooting the car all day, so there were times where the car was stationary and it was running with the AC on. So it's not really a true indication of the real world mileage, but we can expect somewhere around 14 to 15 kilometers per liter with the AMT version. Next up, color options. So you get 9 colors in total for the Exter, out of which you have the option of speccing your car with black roof for 3 of those colors. Now these colors are white, blue and khaki green. Does the driver get an armrest? Well, no. As you can see, there is no armrest for the driver. But you know what, Hyundai has not given an armrest for the rear passengers as well, which I think is a big miss considering the feature list is so generous in this car. Maybe they should have also added a rear armrest. Now here's an interesting question that one user has asked, and it's basically about the dash cam and its specs and features. So the Exter Connect version comes with dual view dash cam as standard. So this may be a dual view dash cam, but it doesn't record what's happening at the back of your car. It's basically for whatever's happening inside the cabin, apart from the front view, of course. Now this is a non-branded unit. By that I mean, when you start up the car, it shows the Hyundai logo and not of some brand. And in terms of features, well, it records in full HD and HD formats at 30 frames per second. Next up, does it get a hybrid powertrain? Well, this car is only available with a pure petrol engine or a petrol with the CNG combination. 0 to 100 acceleration time for the Exter. Well, the claim figure is around 12 seconds, but that's for the manual version. What we have here is the AMT, and we did use our gearbox on it to test its acceleration. And well, the final figures are it did 0 to 100 in 15.27 seconds, which isn't too bad, honestly. Now someone has asked for a brief overview of the main infotainment display and the instrumentations. Well, this 8-inch system is the same unit that you get in a lot of entry-level Hyundai cars. So the Nios, the Aura and the Venue, it's the same system, and it gets Android Auto, Apple CarPlay and the sorts. Moving on to the instrument cluster, well, this is something that's new for the Exter. Well, it's not new. We have seen this in the Verna and also the new Venue, but this is like a slightly dialed down version, in the sense that because this car doesn't have drive modes, this system is not really configurable, so you get the same graphics in pretty much the same color, which is blue in this case. Moving on, how big does the Exter look to a naked eye? Does it look big enough to be called an SUV? Well, the simple answer is no. Now, even though it might have all the SUV design cues all over it, the Exter is a compact vehicle after all. So it doesn't really have a humongous amount of road presence or anything of that sort. Finally, how is the gear shift on this AMT version? Is it jerky in stop-start traffic, and also at what RPM in 5th gear does it cruise at 100 km per hour? Well, I'll begin with the AMT gearbox and its performance first. So it is as good as AMT gearboxes in reasonably priced cars can be. It is smooth, it is not jerky at all when you are around par throttle. It's only when you are going like hard on the throttle you will notice that head shake every time it goes through the gear, but otherwise when you're driving normally, it is so smooth that you won't even notice that it's an AMT. And as for the cruising speed in 5th gear at 100 km per hour, well, the gearing seems to be quite tall on the Exter. So when you're doing 100 km per hour in 5th, the RPM is somewhere around 1500. So it's not really causing any stress to the engine, and the whole car remains very smooth and silent as you're doing highway speeds. That's it from us for this video. Now, as some of you may know, the Tata Punch also gets an AMT version. We have tested it for its performance and real world fuel efficiency, and you can check it out by clicking somewhere over here. While Hyundai may have beaten it when it comes to launching a CNG version right at the time of the launch, there is a CNG Tata Punch coming with one very unique feature. You can check out the video below to know more about it. Also, please consider subscribing to our channel if you like it, and thanks for watching.